My name's Andrew Rule. I was born in 1957 in East Gippsland. I grew up at Lake Tyers. I went to school at the Lake Tyers Aboriginal Settlement, or station as we called it in those days. And my father Keith, as a young man, played sport at the station, and that's how he came to be a member of that elite and relatively unknown team, the 1950 Lake Tyers football team. Dad was a slow and distinctively pale, fair-haired player in an extremely black football team, and he said it was always funny when they went to Lakes Entrance or Orbost or somewhere, because his teammates they'd oil themselves up with oil, whatever, and they'd be really shiny and gleaming, black, and he said, and then he'd run out, and Dad was very fair. He'd lollop out looking like an emu, and he said it always raised a laugh. Some little girl said, "Oh, Mummy, look, there's a white one." And of course, this became the butt of much humour among his teammates, and they immediately dubbed him Jackie. So he was always known, and to this day, by those old people who remember him, he's known as Jackie Brule, which is the nickname that he enjoyed at Lake Tyers, and that we family members, we called him Jackie. My father was born in 1933. He would have gone from Nowa Nowa to Lake Tyers in about 1936 or something, and so he literally grew up there. And he was a big, strong kid. He was big for those days, but he got polio as a child, and he had his one leg in calipers. And when they took them off, he survived, unlike some. But when they took them off, one of his feet, I think it was his right foot, I forget now, was bent. It was squashed up and shaped like this, and it gave him a little like a club foot. And he walked around. He wore pairs of shoes, but one was always bent up and shorter than the other. And he had a bit of a limp, but it didn't stop him playing a brand of football. But he was big and raw-boned, and he played as a very slow ruckman in a team full of very fast, small guys. And the joke went, or the story went, that my grandmother said, "Oh, he's pretty slow and awkward, isn't he?" She said to Choppy Hayes, who I think had won the 75-yard sprint at Stall. He was an elite runner. And he said, he is pretty awkward, Mrs. Rule, but he makes it awkward for the other people too. He makes it awkward for the other ruckman, which was probably true. Ronnie Edwards. I'd grown up knowing Ronnie. He was the father of my schoolmates Michael and Leon and Alfie and all these many girls. And Ronnie was an enormously skilled footballer. He was older than Dad's sort of cohort, and he'd really, I think, made his name in the 40s, and probably, I think, would play anywhere where they paid him to play. I think he'd played at Orbost and various places. And at one point, he had gone down to town to Fitzroy, and I think Fitzroy, and tried out and come home again. But he was an enormously skilled forward, and in August 1950, Lake Tyers plays Nowa Nowa. And the setup to the story is this, that Orbost had some sort of hotshot full forward, and they were probably paying this guy to play. Might have brought him in from elsewhere, as happens in the country. And this guy looked to be a certainty to win the league's goal-kicking competition. Well, the Lake Tyers guys thought it'd be a good idea if Ronnie won it. So on this particular day, they feed Ronnie the ball. They channeled the ball through Ronnie exclusively. And Ronnie Edwards kicked, I think, 43-12 off his own boot. Dad said it was extraordinary. He was kicking them from all angles, both feet, inside, outside, wherever, dancing around people. It just became a rout and a joke, and the crowd was laughing and cheering, and it was just a wonderful thing. There's no doubt that sport was a passport for many people, or for some people, to a different life or to a form of equality, because once you run out on a footy field, it's you and the ball and an umpire, and you can win games. And I think the Indigenous influence has been great for the game, and I think in reverse the game have been very good for Indigenous people.